Today we're going to have a look at the brand new release from Mecca Max. It's the Dream Queen palette. Hi everyone, welcome back. We are looking at a brand new palette from Mecca Max. You know, in the past I've reviewed pretty much all of their palettes, and I was really happy to be sent this one as well. So this one, it's the Dream Queen palette. I want to have a look at this today. I'm going to apply it on my eyes. I'm going to have a look at how it compares to some of the other palettes, see if there's any similarities. I'm going to see if this one's worth picking up if you have the others. There might be some similarities there. As well as the palette, Mecca also sent me a couple of brushes, so I'm going to give these a go as well because I haven't tried their brushes, I don't think. So at $38 and 15 pans, these palettes always just represent really good value for me. This one here has very kind of earthy, warm tones. Sorry, I'll try not to blind you with a mirror there. But yeah, there's some really like earthy, warm tones, some very peachy vibes. I think this is very in for now. And I feel like this really kind of encapsulates like Mecca's kind of look. They've got a very warm, peachy, glowy look about their whole branding. And I think this, like I said, really kind of hits the nail on the head. There's a few shades in here which immediately pop out to me. That one there, this one here is just like a beautiful sort of dusty mauvey rose. And then of course this one, I had the palette, I opened the palette, I left my cat alone for roughly 30 seconds and she put her paw in it and scratched it, because that's what we're dealing with. And when I say cat, I mean this little thing. So this little paw went in that palette and yeah, I forgive you. So what's great about these palettes is that as well as eye palettes, they can also be used for the face. So there's definitely some shades here that I'd like to use, like I said, as blushes, and then there's some bronzers as well. And then there's some really pretty shades there that could be highlighters as well. So I will use all three of those brushes. We'll have a go, we'll have a look at how it turns out. But I think we'll first have a look at the shades. So as I said, we have 15 shades here. We have mattes, we have shimmers. I like that they've kept in their kind of signature marbly shades. If you got the first palette, which I'll show you in a second, there was a lot of that in there. And now they've introduced some mattes and some just sort of plain shimmery shades. But these ones are always really deceiving in the pan. They look like they're gonna be a little bit scary, and then you blend the colors together and they're actually glorious. To me, a few of the marble shades look identical to some that have been there before. So this one here, for example, looks like it's a repeat from another palette, as does this peachy shade there too. So let's have a quick look. So this is the original palette. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different shimmers there. These are limited edition, so you won't be able to get it anymore. But if you have this palette, there certainly is enough difference there for you to get some different looks, and it's well worth picking up. The second one was the Desert palette, and again there are some similarities there in terms of tones. You can see that there's some peachy tones in there as well as a red, and lots of bronzes and stuff as well. This one is a little bit lighter, I feel, but there's some deep shades there too. So, you know, there might be some similarity. We'll do some swatching and have a look. And then finally, there's this one here, and this one was the Sugar Queen. Yeah, Sugar Queen palette. And I feel like there's a bit of crossover there with some of the mattes. But also, if you have a look, this shade and that shade closest together, which look like they might be identical. But those two shades that are touching there, they look like they might be identical. So we'll swatch those up and see. Might end up swatching completely different, but let's have a look. So if you did pick up the Sugar Queen, this shade here is from that, and this one here is from the brand new Dream Queen. This one is the new one. It's slightly brighter, but you could probably get away with both those shades. These two here are that marbled shade, and I feel like they look pretty similar. This is the new one. This is the old one. I feel like, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that, but one is a little bit pinkier, but again, they're very similar. I think the point of difference between these two here though, the new palette has this little quad here of sort of cooler toned shades that kind of leaning towards a mauve sort of shade. So if you like a cooler eye look, then this one will get you started. But those shades also will look really pretty on the face. So here we have the 4 marbled shades. Like I said, they look kind of weird in the pan, but swatched around you can see they're actually really wearable. And then on a bare arm you can see they have quite a lot of shimmer there. The 2 most recent palettes have these really highly pigmented sort of soft metallic shades, and I'll show you what they look like. They're always, like I said, really rich and creamy. So there's loads of payoff. I think that one there is going to be a real favourite for me. And then I found the mattes in these palettes often are a little bit, they feel quite firm. It doesn't mean that they don't perform well, but if you're used to a matte that you stick your brush in and they really fluff up a lot, these don't tend to do that. So there's 4 of them. And we have 3 more they're the more sort of deep tone ones. But yeah, let's play with this on my face. If you hear little footsteps, it's not me, I swear, it's the cat in the background. So I'm going to start off by using this as a face palette, and I'm going to grab this shade down here and use it as a bronzer. There's quite a lot here picked up on this angled brush. Sorry about the noise, there's someone playing on the floor here. Looks a bit scary. So there's some pigment there. You definitely need to use a light hand, because generally bronzers and face products have less pigment in them than eyeshadows. But because this is a duo kind of formula, you just need to use, like I said, a light hand. And this is a cooler tone shade, so it's good for contour, not just for bronzing. And then I'm going to grab this kind of dusty rose colour, and I'm going to use that as the blush today. I'm really tempted to use the coral. Oh, that's pretty. It looks really dark on camera, but really soft here. There is this real thing about cameras and video footage, because it looks far more blended in real life than it does in this kind of soft diffused camera light. And then using the highlighter brush, I'm going to grab, I feel like this formula here is the thick one, and I feel like it's going to be way chunky on me. If you have very young, smooth skin, it might look okay on you, but for me, I think it's going to be too much. So instead, I'm going to grab this instead I'm going to grab this shade here, which is like the marbled one, and just use that really lightly and apply here. And that's a lot more subtle. Yeah, that gives a really pretty subtle glow. I'll show you what the other one looks like. So I've picked up just the tiniest amount, and I'm putting that right on my cheekbones, and it actually looks okay, but it's a bit, like, it's really blinding. I don't really want that for myself. If you do, then you're going to love that. I seriously have a kitten biting my toes right now. So this brush here is a dual-ended. We've got like a very flat brush, would be great for, I think that tip would be great for like a cut crease or for highlighting the brow bone. And then you've got a really large sort of blendy brush here. And I'm going to use this blendy brush here to first pick up, what do I have on? Okay, I've got concealer on my lids. So I want a really soft sort of wash of colour. I don't want anything sticky because I don't want too intense a colour payoff. But let's just see how we go. I'm going to start off with that colour that I'm just a little bit obsessed with, which is the colour I used for my blush. And as you probably know, that whole monochromatic look of matching lips and cheeks and eyes is really popular at the moment. I'm just going to start off by patting that into the crease. Do that for both sides. And then start blending. Well, that's definitely what I was going for, a really soft wash of colour. Nothing like some kitten licks on the toes to help you with your blending game. I would be happy to wear just this shade every day for the rest of my life. It's really pretty and so soft. It's really like effortless and just looks put together. A bit of mascara. I need to blend it out a little bit more on the edges. But this shade is perfect. And do you know how many times I have used a blush for an eyeshadow like wash of colour? Often when I bring like a little contour duo with me, if I go somewhere, I'll just use that for eyeshadow and for face products. This brush is pretty nice. It's a little big for very detailed work though, because I have really small eyes and not a lot of lid space. So for this kind of look where it's just all buffed and blended, it's fine. Speaking of buffing and blending, just using the same brush, I'm going to pick up that creamy kind of, creamy kind of bone shade there. And just blend out the edges a bit. It's really pretty. And then I'm going to grab some of that corally peach shade and stick that in the corner and make that a little bit brighter. I really wish that this palette had been released at the end of last year or really the beginning of this year, because I feel like, oh wow, look at that. That's a lot of colour, and there's been a little bit of fallout there too. I'll have to fix that up. But I really feel like this is the perfect summer palette. Having said that, there are a few shades in there Those two namely, which I think would be really pretty for autumn. So a lot of that colour that's blended here, I think it's just the brush is too big for this, for my eyes. My eyes are too, you know, small. So I'll grab a little bit more of that colour on a smaller brush and just swish it around there. I'm picking up just a little bit of that terracotta kind of shade, and again going a little bit in the outer corner. That's really pigmented. I'm only using the slightest amount. So I've used those 4 matte. So that was my crease colour. This one here, I just use a little bit on the outer kind of corners, the outer edges, just to brighten it up a little bit. Then I use the bone shade there just to blend out the edges, and that terracotta shade really added a really pretty, like, little depth in the corners there, and everything blended out really well. I'm not sure what to use on top, because I really want to use this like metallic shade, but I'm not sure if it's going to match. This is kind of like a vintage rose type shade, and I'm not sure it's going to match the oranges that I've used. I might use a little bit more of that pink that I started off with, so that I can make it a little bit more pink and a little bit less orange. So just sort of change the tone a little bit. So I'm going to pick up that shade. It's really creamy. And I'm going to just pat that onto the lid. And then using that flat shader brush, I'm going to grab some of that really light metallic shade there and pop it in the corners. And then pick up some of that and just go under the brow. Oh, I don't like that. It's a bit feathery. It's a bit stiff feeling, but it probably would be good, like I said, for packing or doing a cut crease. Like I said before, it's a bit stiff for blending anything. I'm just going to take a clean brush and just blend all the edges out. So this is how I would wear the palette. I feel like I want to give you a little bit more though, because there's a lot of shades. There's quite a few shades here that I'd love to try out, and I feel like I want to try this shade here, and maybe, which is this one in the middle, and maybe just stick that on top as well, because we're going to just use all the colours today. That actually I feel like matches the rest of the eye look a lot better. Okay, I actually like that a lot more better. A lot more better, I just said, a lot better. I'm going to grab the terracotta shade and stick that under the eye. And I feel like now that my eyes are done, I need a little bit more on my face. So I'm going to grab some more blush. It's crazy how different this looks, really. I'll insert some photos so you can see the colours and how intense it actually looks. I'm just going to jump off and put some mascara on, and then I'll be right back. So no liner or anything like that today, so we'll just move on to lips. And I picked up 2 of the Meccamax pencils, the pout pencils, the other day, and I want to use one, and I don't know which one. This is the lighter colour one, or the more pink one. I might just try the lighter colour one. Pencils like this are a great way to, like, they're a great thing just to keep in your bag, because pencils that are creamy like these ones are you can just use them alone as a lipstick, and they're really easy to use. They're really, like, precise. You're not going to make a mess as long as you keep them sharpened and, you know, keep the cap on. It's a great way to touch up your lip colour. So this is the shade Chic. It's really close to my lip colour actually. And I tend to just slightly overdraw my top lip. So that gives you a really matte look, and then if you want, you can put a gloss on top, some sort of gloss on top. This one's a lip glaze from Meccamax. I want to try the new Boss glosses as well. I don't need much of this. I'm just going to put a little bit on for a bit more moisture, and the colour kind of perfectly matches the eyes. Alright, what do you think? I actually think it worked out really nicely. I like the palette. I think there's enough difference there if you own the other ones. I do think it's most like, it's like the Sugar Queen palette, which was the last one, but those mattes really do make it a little bit different. I think it's a really nice sort of wearable palette. Definitely something you could use if you're someone who just someone who just wears makeup like in work situations, but there's also enough there to turn your day looks into night looks. And yeah, I think it's overall just a really nice, pretty palette. What do you think? So just in case I wasn't clear, the palette and the brushes were gifted. The other stuff is stuff that I already had and purchased. So hopefully you got a good look at how the palette performs. Like I said, for $38 for 15 shades, that's a pretty kind of generous amount of product, and the shades are fairly on trend. And if you're looking for something pretty versatile, I think you might like to pick this up. I've said it quite a few times, but I think the Meccamax brand is really good value for money, and their products seem to just do really well. But anyway, I'm off. I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.